Hi, I'm Jered Flickinger with Future Retro. Today I am at the new switched on location here in Austin, Texas, and we are going to be doing some demos of our Swynx and Zillion products. Alright, and so we're going to start off with our Swynx product. It's a small tabletop unit here. On the back we've got MIDI. This is going to be our clock input. Here you've got your MIDI sync output. Here you've got your DIN sync output. Here's a selector switch that selects either CR78 or ARP or analog sequence or analog clock outputs. And here you've got a stereo 1/4 inch jack. On the tip you're going to have the clock signal. On the ring you're going to have the reset or write signals. And in our setup today we've got the MIDI in coming from a Roland TR-505 drum machine. We're sending MIDI clock output to our Revolution synthesizer here. We've got the DIN sync hooked up to a Roland TR-606, and we are using the analog clock output to control our Roland CR78 drum machine. And with this control here, this sets our time signature. Time signatures include 9/8, 7/8, 6/8, 5/8, 2/4, 2/4, 4/4, 4/4, 8/4, 3/4, and 6/4. And you'll notice some of these time signatures where there's two of them. What that is we've got two different shuffle patterns for that time signature. Give you a little bit different feeling when you are swinging the clock. Over here is our swing amount. This is in percentage, so when we're all the way counterclockwise, we're at 50% swing. All the way clockwise, we're at 75% swing. This control and this control can be manually moved at any time while we are syncing. Changes to the time signature will be updated on the next bar. The swing will be updated at the next shuffle group of notes. The shuffle or the swing control here is quantized to 1/2 of 1%, which is much more accurate than you'll find in most drum machines. And here we've got a little LED that indicates activity coming out of our analog clock or our CR78 clock. Just kind of lets us know that things are happening here. So why don't we go ahead and start our master clock and we'll hear everything that's syncing up. Notice we've got time signature set at 4/4. This is just going to be a 1/8 note shuffle pattern. And we're going to start off with no shuffle and then increase the shuffle so you can hear the effect. Now let's go ahead and select one of the different time signatures. We're going to select 4/4 with the different shuffle pattern. Just give you an idea of what that's going to sound like. And what you're hearing there is instead of an 1/8 note shuffle pattern, you're hearing a 1/4 note shuffle pattern. If we select the 2/4 time signature, what it's effectively going to do is half time our tempo. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to 4/4. And if we were to select the 8/4, we would basically be doubling the time signature. So let's go ahead and try that. And you'll notice while we're doing this, we could stop the clock on our CR78, and then at any time we're able to throw it back in sync. turn this 606 down. Let's turn the revolution down. Now we're just listening to the CR78, and just to get an idea of, you know, here we've got the original pattern. We can add a little shuffle to that. Show you that how much you can vary these preset patterns. Here's without shuffle. Again, that's normal without shuffle. Bring back in the revolution. And now the 606. Alright, now we're going to show you some of the irregular time signatures that the Swynx offers. I've got the TR-505 acting as the master clock, and we're actually going to hear a pattern coming from the 505 just so we have a reference. And then the Swynx is clocking the revolution, and we've set the number of steps to loop at 12. We've selected our 6/8 time signature and our swing amount of 50%. So if we go ahead and hit start. Here we have no swing, but you can hear it's playing 12 notes in the same amount of time as 16 notes in a 4/4 time signature. So it's pre-scaling or stretching those notes to fit the same amount of time, which in effect can create some pretty interesting polyrhythms. So now let's add a little bit of shuffle. Now let's go ahead and change that loop point to 6. And we can select 3. And you can do some weird things by, now we're looping 4 steps in the revolution, but it's playing a 6/8 time signature, so you're going to hear the beat kind of feel like it's slipping as it evolves around. Now we can go back to 6. Again, there's no swing. Now let's go ahead and try a 5/8 time signature. We're going to set the loop point to loop at 5 steps. Let's turn our swing amount down and go ahead and start it. So now it's playing 10 steps in the same amount of time as you normally hear 16 steps play in 4/4 time signature. It's got a unique feel to it, just the way we shuffle the notes for a 5/8 time signature. There you're hearing it more quantized. So sometimes when you apply swing amount to these irregular time signatures, it'll actually make it feel like a totally different time signature. Now we can let's go ahead and set this up to loop at 12, set our time signature for 3/4, and now we're going to select one of the 3/4 time signatures. So our TR-505 is playing a 4/4 beat, the Revolution is playing a 3/4 time signature. We have no swing at this amount. Let's increase it. And you'll hear at great swing settings or higher swing settings, it's moving those 3/4 notes into the places where 4/4 notes would actually exist. Just kind of interesting way to change the feel of your composition live. Now let's go ahead and switch to the other 3/4 time signature, and you'll hear a different shuffle pattern. Now let's go back to the other 3/4. And we can even select 6/4. Six four is basically just doubling the time signature that 3/4 has. And that's unique because you'll notice that a lot of drum machines, even though they give you like a 3/4 or a 4/4 time signature, if they do allow shuffle or swing as a built-in feature, they generally only allow you to shuffle that 4/4 time signature. You'll notice that 3/4 is never really given the option to apply shuffle. Alright, so now we're going to run through how to program the Roland CR78 with the Future Retro Swynx box. What we're using here is what's called a send return cable. So it is a stereo connector on this end. On the other end, it breaks out into 2/4 inch mono cables like this, and you'll notice that often when you buy these, one's labeled tip and the other's labeled ring. You want to route the tip into your clock input and then the ring into the right input. The first method we're going to use here is using a MIDI keyboard to program in the rhythm into one of these three locations. So go ahead and select one of the locations that you're going to write to. Turn your selector to all, hit the clear key, go ahead and turn that back to memory. And you notice we've got a MIDI keyboard here. We're running MIDI out over there into the MIDI in of this box. And now that we are using this as a CR78 programmer, we're going to be interested in what these divisions are on the outside ring. So for instance, I want to write a kick drum and I want to write it at 1/4 note intervals, so I'm going to set my selector to 1/4 notes here. On the MIDI keyboard, how this interprets our input is any white key is going to be a note on. Any of the black notes are going to be a note off or rest, so it'll advance the sequencer without actually writing a note to that step. And just a little bit of background on the CR78 in case you don't know, it's going to record 2 measures worth of, or 2 bars worth of music, and it has an internal quantization of 1/48 notes. So that's why you can see here we can write from 1/2 notes all the way up to 1/48 notes. And so we've got our clock and our right signal connected in the back. We've got our pattern selected. We've cleared it out. Let's go ahead and write our 1/4 note. We need to cue up the CR78 by hitting the start stop switch. Now let's go ahead and hit it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we've written 8 1/4 notes. Let's go ahead and just create a snare drum pattern where it normally falls. So I'm going to write a rest first. 1, then write a snare. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So now we're back to the first step. Let's go ahead and write a hi-hat pattern. So now I'm going to turn our selector up to 16th notes. So now I can write 16 notes per measure. And I'm just going to do some weird pattern here with note ons and offs. So and let's just go ahead and select, not sure what the C instrument is, clave maybe? Let's just enter in a random pattern for that too. Alright, and that's basically all you have to do to enter in your pattern. Let's go ahead and switch the selector back to play. And around the back, I'm going to disconnect the clock coming into it. And there's our pattern running. And as you probably know, you can combine the preset rhythms with the pattern you just created. We can select a different pattern we've already written. So again, there's that pattern we made. If we made a mistake, we can select either the instrument that we screwed up on. Let's say we didn't like the kick drum. So let's select kick drum, select the memory, hold down the clear button, and now you'll notice track 1's empty. We've just erased that. If we wanted to erase all the tracks, we'd switch the selector down to all, hit the clear key, and now all of our memories cleared. Let's go ahead and just try that once again. Let's first connect our clock back up. Hit the Q button. And I'm going to select quarter notes. Actually, let's just try something more percussive now. Let's do a low bongo. And I'm going to select 16th notes. So, and forgot to cue it. So here we go. Now I'm going to select the high bongo. And now let's select a different. Let's do the metal beat. And I'm just throwing in random stuff here. And let's try a rim shot. And let's go back to play, pull out our clock. And that's the pattern we just created. Now let's say that we like that, but we want to do something a little bit different, or we want to tap something in live on top of that. Let's take this rim shot, put it up to the memory, go ahead and clear that out. Now you'll notice that track number 4 is empty. That's where a rim shot was. And you'll notice if I turn this to play, I'm going to adjust this time signature up to 148 so that I've got the fastest clocks coming out of here. You'll notice now when I hit a white note on the MIDI controller, I'm actually triggering whatever instrument I've currently got selected. So I could actually play an instrument over top of this, or if I wanted to write that, I'd go ahead and switch it to memory and then tap in the rhythm on the keyboard. Now it does take a little bit of practice because the CR78 is quantizing to 1/48 notes. So generally you're going to want to turn the tempo down a little bit. And in some cases, to give you more of a reference backbeat, you might want to select something that's a standard beat like Rock 1. Now I'll go ahead and tap in my rim shot. And there you go. I can switch this back to play. And actually trigger a fifth sound, even though it only has slots to record 4 spaces. Let's say I could do some snare fills. Now that doesn't record it, it's just allowing me to play on top of it. Adjust my tempo back up. And I'm sure you know how the CR78 works. You can mute different instruments here. Or we could go ahead and throw in some of the other preset rhythms. Alright, so it gives you a lot more freedom to do what you want to do with the CR78 without having to search for the WS1, which is really hard to find. And again, you can write your patterns into the CR78. Once you're done, go ahead and hook it back up to your master clock, and now you can sync CR78 up to any MIDI clock you want, plus add shuffle to it at any time.